Hello and welcome to Improve Your Dating Radar. And today we're going to talk about how to spot a relationship predator, the hijackal. So lots of things to talk about. I'm here with my co-host Sandy Weiner of Last First Date. So welcome, Sandy. What's up with you today?
Hey, let me put my little piece of paper out there. What's up with me? My house is full, and I was just talking about that with you. And it's interesting that when our children are difficult and are difficult for us, how we deal with that. And so my house is filled with all of my children, all of my adult kids who all want to be right. My son and I are most alike, and he's just wanting his space back because he likes quiet and he thinks best in a quiet space. And so there's been a lot of pandemonium, and now everybody's gone and it's nice and quiet. It's great. How about you, Rhoberta?
Well, I've just come back from a week of taking care of a friend who I took her to the hospital for surgery and have been being with her for the last week. And being in someone else's space while they're recovering is obviously not your everyday experience. So
Yes.
I've had a lovely time with her. She recovered very nicely, and it's always a learning time. And really, that's what we're going to talk about today, because there is something out there in the wind besides the weather, and I've given it a name, and the name is hijackals. So we're going to talk about what that really is and why they're relationship predators and how to recognize one. And if, as we're going along, you immediately say, oh, this makes sense to me, and I need more information, go to hijackals.com and you can download my free ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. And if you don't think you have a hijackal in your life, then go to forrelationshiphelp.com and you can learn about all kinds of other things that can improve your relationship with yourself and other people. So today's topic is near and dear to my heart, and I was doing an interview on Zoom for a Australian company on Friday, and we were talking about this very thing, and having hijackals in our family, having hijackals in our home, having hijackals as a partner, having hijackals as a parent, or having hijackals in the next cubicle, all the same thing, right? So the first question is, how do you know if you're with one? And, I'm sure that just from the experiences you and I were speaking about offline, we have a few clues about how to know if you're with one. And one of the key features is that they always have to win in the moment. If you're with somebody who always has to win in the moment, then you will be in that crazy making place of recognizing you're with a hijackal. And I'll give you an example. We have if I talk about hijackals on a scale of 1 to 10, we have a 24 that's running for president right now. So here is a really overt example. The Republican candidate of note, of whom I'm speaking, was on the Today Show by phone the other day. And the host, Natalie Morales, she said, I'd like to play this piece of tape for you from 2 days ago. So she played it, and he said, I never said that. So hijackal number 1, denial. Okay. I had to win in the moment, so I said that to be right to that audience, to make my point, to win. But today, it doesn't sound good to me, so I never said that. Okay. Then she said, here's a piece of tape from yesterday. What about this? Hijackal strategy number 2. He didn't deny it. He said, oh, you media people, you're always twisting things. Right into blame. Mm-hmm. So a very high level example that I think everybody can see if they recognize what's going on there that when you're dealing with a hijackal, they have to win in the moment, even if that means that they, excuse me, didn't turn off my cell phone, even if that means they're contradicting themselves, because to them, they're not contradicting themselves. They're simply telling the truth in the moment. And if it
Yeah.
changes, so be it.
Right. What's truth?
Yeah, completely subjective, apparently, when you're dealing with a hijackal.
Yeah, in my experience, there's a lot of backpedaling of and excuses. So he's blaming, and I've seen a lot of, well, I was tired. I didn't really mean to say that. There's something wrong with you, obviously, but there were a lot of excuses. It's a whole litany of excuses as to justify bad behavior. In my particular case, once when I was dating someone, I lost my phone. There's all kinds of reasons why I didn't get in touch, or the accusations of, you're too sensitive.
You're too needy.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you, right?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
I just heard this horrific account. It was on NPR of a woman who married a very religious Hasidic rabbi. And she was very young. She was 19. She grew up thinking this is the ultimate. You marry this prestigious man and you try to become the best wife. And he was controlling and he was abusive. And then he started first with verbal abuse and then it became physical abuse. And she was pregnant with their first child and he would jump on top of her and pin her down and yell at her. And she ended up miscarrying the first child, and the baby was fine. The placenta abrupted very early on. And the postpartum depression and his denial and his never caring about her feelings. And finally, after giving birth to a second child and going through 7 years of abuse, she got out. And one of the most beautiful parts of the story was what happened to her at the end. And she started to tune into what made her happy, to doing what made her feel good for the first time, probably in her entire life. And so she was no longer just following the script of what religion wanted of her or what she thought that religion wanted of her. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about religious abuse and how people end up in controlling kinds of situations. Are you familiar with those kinds of situations?
I am. And in fact, right now I'm dealing with a couple of clients who are dealing with endeavoring to remove their children, not complete, but in an equitable way, to have at least 50-50 custody time with their children who are with their hijackal, one with a hijackal mother, one with a hijackal father, who have absconded to Utah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And what happens there, of course, is that, if you're in the fold there, you are going to get all the goodies and the other person is going to be discounted. And so that's one example that I have right now. And I don't mean to say that's always the case. I'm just saying I'm dealing with these two people for whom it is the case. And because the hijackals in question happen also to be LDS, they're having a problem, a severe problem. But let's, I think, look more at the generality of that, Sandy, which is that if I'm living by somebody else's rules in order to be a better person, am I doing that because I don't know who I am and I don't know what I stand for? Or am I being very wise and figuring out if that is in fact what I believe, or am I doing it to belong? Because what happens for hijackal bait, that's what I call people that hijackals prey on, is that they really like people pleasers. They really like people who will go along with them, who will. Let me just define hijackals.
Okay, good.
Hijackals are people who hijack relationships for their own purposes while relentlessly scavenging them for power, status, and control. So there are many instances that we've seen in the news of religious leaders who are relentlessly scavenging relationships for power, status, and control. And the people who are attracted to that are people who are, in the substance abuse language, we call them codependents. They're people who have not individuated in their personal psychological growth from being a people pleaser, which we all have to be when we're little, so that the giants will feed us and take care of us, and they'll like us enough to take us with them. And we have to individuate out of that to be, well, what's okay with me? What do I like? What do I believe? What do I want? What is appropriate for me to demonstrate and live my values? But if we go to a place that, as you were mentioning, is some kind of religious belief system or spiritual system or political system or whatever, and I don't come with knowing who I am, I go because I need to belong to a group that will give me approval, then I jump in and make other people wrong for not believing what I believe and not behaving how I am told I should behave. And we get into a kind of double whammy because we may have become a hijackal in our own life, and then we get into that situation, and then we look for power there. So then I want to move up, I want to get more powerful, I want to have power over people, and then we end up with things like Waco.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
yeah,
I don't think we want to go too far down that path of what happens to people on those paths, but what we need to understand is there are some things that are really basic to identifying and having the dating radar for a relationship predator, a hijackal. And one of them is that they have that absolute need to win. And, they will say black is white in this moment if they need to win. And tomorrow they will say black is red. And when confronted with their black and white statement, they will say they never made that statement and how completely wrong you are and where do you get off accusing them of anything anyway. But the other side of the coin is also equally a hijackal hallmark, which is blame everybody else for everything. Nothing can ever rest with a hijackal. It's always got to be someone else's fault.
Yes.
So if you're dating someone who's always complaining about the weather, the IRS, their mother, the boss, whatever, you have your radar up there and say, could this possibly all be somebody else's fault? And start looking at how do we get clear about who this person we're dating really is.
So as my marriage was ending, I was extremely vulnerable, and I met a man who was probably a hijackal. He told me how miserably married he was, that he would never leave his wife, but that she and he had nothing in common. And, there were a whole bunch of complaints, but he would not be willing to do anything about it. And then it came out in his business life as well that he felt he cheated in business. Basically, he cheated in his life, all over his life, and often you do see these patterns. And he felt justified. He felt that the IRS was wrong to call him out. So now that I have space between who I was then and who I am now, I can totally see it, and I see that he was a man whose character I totally would not go for today. But in my vulnerable state, he gave me attention, and I needed attention, and I was starving for it. So often the vulnerable among us, and that happens a lot in dating, you're vulnerable, you want love so badly that you fall for somebody who seems, I'm going to speak from a woman's point of view, women who fall for men who have that take charge kind of attitude, who seem macho and manly, are often people who are controlling, and it's also the type A men who value their work over relationships, that in the beginning seem to be so desirable and attractive.
Yeah, and
So
the flip
that's,
side of that too, Sandy, is as you were saying, you were coming out of the troubling relationship, so you were feeling the empowerment of leaving, but at the same time feeling like making all this decision and making all these moves and having to be so assertive. Oh wow, that's tiring. And there's this person who just knows what they want and we get going, and so it's attractive for a little bit
yeah.
because we're exhausted, right? We're emotionally exhausted, and then this person comes up and says, "Oh, let me take you away from the weekend. Let me do this and that and the other thing." Then the little cracks start to show, and we're quick to jump in and rationalize and justify. Oh, they're having a bad day. Oh, it's just a
Yes.
difficult time at work. And so it's not unusual to become hijackal bait when you are in a vulnerable situation. Very, very
Yes.
common. And I use that term advisedly, hijackal bait, because hijackals have a seventh sense. They can sense, scope out, smell, whatever word you want to use, a potential person who they can manipulate, control, exploit, and seduce. They just can sense it. And where they're really good at sensing it is in powerful, well thought out other human beings who are doing really well out here, but have some personal misgivings that are not showing up, but they'll find those soft spots and push on them. And they will exploit that. So you can be the most successful man or woman ever, and it looks all great, and a true hijackal can cut through all that and say, oh yeah, but I can push here, and you're going to say ouch. And if I push it a lot, you're going to get feeling less and less powerful, and I can take over. And we have to watch for that. Absolutely have to watch for that, because it happens. And when we're in a vulnerable state, just the idea of getting out and going dating again can put you in a vulnerable state.
Yes.
So we're stressed, and we don't think we have to be on guard. We don't want to have to be on guard. And so we're not in defense mode by being on guard, but we have to be aware and alert. So we've talked about two things. They have to win, and because they can never be wrong, they have to blame. And a third thing that we talked about was the all or nothing thinking. At one moment, you are the best thing that ever happened to them, and you cross them, and the next minute, you're the scum of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just, whoa, right? They just flip that switch. We call that splitting in the psychological world, that in order to be right here, I have to really think you're the most wonderful thing. And in order to be right over here, I have to think you're the scum of the earth. So they have this all or nothing or black or white thinking, or what we call splitting. And so if you're sitting in a restaurant dating somebody and they say, isn't this a lovely place? And they have the best food, and I'm so happy to have brought you here. And then the wait person perhaps is a little less than wonderful. Pretty soon it's, oh, I should have known better. This place is terrible. Having to be right, having to make that switch. And it goes far deeper than that. And another thing that we have to watch out for is that they traffic in ambiguity. You want a straight answer? Mm-mm. Why don't they give you a straight answer? Because you might hold them to the answer, and therefore they wouldn't be winning. So to keep you in ambiguity, to keep you in uncertainty all the time, great skill they have.
So let me ask you a question, because I have a lot of people in my Facebook group, and here's a link to it if anybody is interested in joining. It's only for women, but it's facebook.com/your last first date. And it's a fabulous group of women who come there, and they talk about their dating situations. And they're not just complaining, because I don't allow that. They also share their wins, and there are many people who have found amazing people to be in relationship with, and I love hearing that too. There are a few people who are struggling with non-committal men, and this is a common thing. So I'm not sure if this classifies as a hijackal, but it's a there's one guy who's platonic with this woman. He pays an inordinate amount of attention to her, wants to be with her all the time. She obviously likes him more, and she stays with him because it's the best thing that she's got going. I think it's really bad for her to be around this guy. I don't think he's manipulating her because he's not promising her anything more than he's capable of giving her right now. But there is this, like, the words and the actions aren't completely matching. I find that a lot, where people will listen to words and they'll think somebody's really into them and they're not. So yeah, can we address that for a minute? Just that people falling for those lovely words and, and staying with hope, just hoping somehow they're going to come around, which is so high school, but people are still doing it in their 50s and 60s.
Well, if you were in my consulting room, Sandy, you would see in 12-inch gold letters written on the wall what I think is the most important thing I can teach anyone. And it says, the truth is what you do. So my advice is to watch what people do, listen less to what they say. When what they say is in alignment with what they do, yay, you've got a winner. If you start to notice that what they say and what they do are diverging, leave.
Right.
Always believe the behavior, because behavior is our belief. Doesn't matter what we're capable of sounding so good about. Behavior is the telling thing. So always believe behavior, not words.
I so agree with you. And a person's character comes out in their actions. And hopefully they're aligned with their words, but the actions are where you really can see. And I can tell you so many cases of relationships that they were going along and they were okay. And then the woman fell madly in love with the guy when her sister got sick with cancer and she saw how he showed up. And I've actually broken up with people because of how they didn't show up. It's like, I really can tell a lot about a person, according to how they show up in a crisis, how they show up when it's not just all beautiful roses, fabulous, because it's so easy to show up when things are good. And
yes. And that's why I always tell my people who ask, and they don't often ask, but if they ask, I tell them this. Don't marry anybody. Don't even move in with them until you have lived one journey around the sun. 1 year.
Yeah,
and
totally
people,
agree.
oh no, that's terrible. I know what I want. I'm, mature and I can figure this out. No, you can't. Not because you are not capable, but because you haven't seen them in all circumstances. In 1 year, you're going to learn the things that you were talking about. Events are going to come up. Losses are going to occur. Change is going to happen. Unexpected things are going to happen. Somebody may get ill. You need to see how this person responds to both the situation and to you in as many possible scenarios as you can before you commit to them.
So agree with you. And you want to see, how does a person deal with traffic? I mean, something as simple as that is something you can tell early on. Do they have road rage?
Yeah.
I remember driving with somebody and I was so uncomfortable in the car with him. I was with somebody and I heard him talk about a coworker in such a negative, nasty way. And the way that he dealt with conflict showed up really quickly, not with me, but the way that he spoke about this other person.
Yes, and believe that, right?
Yes, believe that. Believe a person, as Maya Angelou says, believe them the first time. And what happens is, and I just saw this last night on my Facebook group, I like to give men the benefit of the doubt. I want to be open. I want to give them a chance. And yes, you should give them a chance when it comes to, seeing how their character is and seeing and talking about the stuff that bothers you and seeing how they respond. See if they get defensive. See if they block you out. See if they walk away from conflict.
Yes,
I
Kevin
just,
Compliment.
yeah, I just wrote about a hot topic, which was breaking up by text.
Oh, yes.
And this was my Good Men Project article, and it came out of a conversation that started on my Facebook group. And a woman had been broken up with by text. She was devastated. But you know what? Within the day, a couple of hours, she was already like, I'm over this. I'm angry at him, but I'm over it. Like I just can't believe he would do this to me. And then all these other stories came out. I was with a guy for 5 years and he broke up with me on a Facebook message. And it's and actually that conversation about I want to be kind and open and give people the benefit of the doubt. I mean, 5 freaking years. This can't be the first thing that happened that
No.
showed that he was a lousy communicator, that he did not respect you, that did not have a dignified relationship.
No.
And so, to me, what I always work on with people is to value yourself first. Know who you are and love yourself enough to have standards, to have boundaries, so that you don't allow people to step all over them, and you're not sitting there questioning somebody's behavior and words not matching. Without a doubt, this behavior shows up, I am out.
Yeah.
This does not work for me.
I was doing an interview the other day with Ken Betchell, and
I love Ken.
he sent me a little image that he created of something I said, and I think it's worth repeating here. It's really hard to see red flags when you're wearing rose-colored glasses.
True.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's what you're talking about, Sandy, is we so much want to have a partner that we fail to see that they are not our partner. We're not looking at that. We've got our rose-colored glasses on. They're showing us these red flags. We're not listening. We get in deeper and deeper. And then somebody breaks up by text. I know I responded to your article by saying that's neither brave nor courageous. So, come on, you're not with a
Yes.
communicator of any kind. So isn't that wonderful that finally it showed up? Now, we
Yeah.
weren't talking about 5 years at that time, but, come on. You saw lots of ways that this person was extending their relationship in ways that ought not to have been accorded to him.
Right. So a lot of people say nothing showed up. I saw nothing, and I truly believe that they did not want to see it. I think very few people are so good at hiding everything. And, and I think once you become in tune with what a red flag really looks like, and when it's waving in your face and you had to take those glasses off and really see it and stop excusing horrible behavior. I took a course called Total Transformation. It used to be advertised all the time on the radio with James Lehman. And I took it when I was dealing with my teenage daughter, who was my hijackal at the time. And the motto he kept repeating over and over was, there is no excuse for abuse. There's no excuse. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're my daughter. I don't care if you're my mother. I don't care if you're my coworker, my lover, my anything. There is no excuse for abuse. And I would repeat it over and over. Every time she would say something to me that was nasty, there's no excuse for abuse. I don't care if you didn't get a good night's sleep. I don't care what happened.
Yeah.
You treat me with respect because I treat you with respect. And that's what we deserve.
Yeah. I want to put a big caveat in here, because when you're first with a hijackal, you can be completely drawn in and you will not see any red flags, and you will rose-colored glasses or not, you can really not see these things, because this may be the first time that after the experience you are going to become more self-aware. Hijackals are chameleons. They will be exactly who you want them to be, who you need them to be, who you long for them to be. They will get your number on every level. They will give you what you want. They will seem to be able to read your mind. They are exploitive, manipulative, and seductive. They will do it. And you don't have any defenses against this at the beginning. So the first time that you're in this, because you don't set out to attract a hijackal, you were set up for it. This comes from your upbringing. You became what I call hijackal bait because of all the influences in your life. So the first time that you are with a hijackal, you don't know it and you won't know it. So please let yourself off the hook if that happened to you. You couldn't have known it. You didn't believe that there were people who would behave like this. You justified the behavior. You thought better of them. You made them better than they are in your own mind. And it's really painful to realize that maybe you've invested 5, 10, 15 years of your life, raised children with someone. And as you've matured and you come to a place of realizing, this is abominable, this is despicable, I can't live like this, don't beat yourself up about it. Simply get some help to get out of it. Go to hijackals.com, download my ebook, How to Spot a Hijackal. If that's not enough material for you, go to Amazon, just put in hijackal. You'll find my 2 books on it. Read in more depth so that you understand what's about you and what's about them, because this is not something you want to be beating yourself up about. What you want to do is become more self-reflective, more self-aware, become understanding your values and how you demonstrate them every day, working with yourself in that regard and making change now. But spend no time beating yourself up after being seduced by a hijackal.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, they are just they're master manipulators, and you're no match for them if you have been raised to be hijackal bait. So let yourself off the hook, but get help. I have a weekend program that runs again in October, where you can come here for the weekend to San Diego, where I live, and I will help you. I also have a Facebook group that's brand new. Go and join it. It's called Surviving Hijackals. It's a closed group. Nobody can just go peering in there. The posts won't appear in your feed. It's a safe place to talk about what it's like to be with a hijackal, to ask your questions, am I with one? Or to say, I've gotten rid of one, how do I make sure I don't get another one?
Yes, and also in my Facebook group, we talk about these kinds of relationships all the time. A lot of times people will post a question, should I stay or should I go? And, I am so straightforward. I'm kind and compassionate, but I am straightforward. I will tell you the truth because I don't think we benefit from having the truth masked. So if you're struggling in any way, you have Rhoberta's fabulous group, and here's another little link to my group. It's Your Last First Date on Facebook, and it's also a closed group, and everybody who's over 40 and female is welcome.
Yeah, and probably a good thing for us to do is to be in each other's groups, because I don't deal with all the dating pieces you do, so we could share.
Yeah. Yes, I have a lot of experts in my group actually who have joined. Yeah. So you're welcome to join.
Thanks, and you too. It's important, though, getting back to our topic today, how to spot a relationship predator, the hijackal. It's important to know that there are signs and symptoms, and that's what I've written about a lot. But it's also important to know that you can, in fact, give up being hijackal bait. And that's something that you do have to go through a significant process to unlearn, right? To shift and make a change. I was working with a client this morning, and I haven't talked to her for a year. And it was so wonderful, Sandy, because she was reading my notes that she took from the time that we were together, probably 18 months to a year ago. We were, she was my client, and she's saying, and I did this, and I did that, I did the other thing. And I am hearing this confident, assertive woman that was not there the last time I spoke to her. And she's saying, she's just taking those points and saying, and I did this, and I watched your video. I have a YouTube channel. It's at For Relationship Help, HELP. So go. There are lots and lots of videos there that I've made that will help you. But she was going and reinforcing this and then reading other things. And she's recognized that even though her partner is a hijackal, and this is a point that I want to make. She has children with him. She has family with him. She has a whole lot of things. And I always advocate, first of all, get all the juice out of the relationship you can before you ever think of leaving, unless there's physical abuse. Because you got into this relationship by who you are, and you need to strengthen, you need to become more strategic, you need to become more skillful and self-reflective. So learn while you're in the relationship, try things out, see what will work. Because hijackals come from low level at 1 to full blown at 10, and the one we talked about earlier today at 24. But you know, you can have significant impact if you're with someone that you have children with and you would like to shape and shift the relationship in a different direction. Do your own work. Become the one who can put out the healthy situations, the healthy statements, manage conflict and communication in healthy ways. See what can change. I have diametrically opposed to one of my colleagues, as Sandy and I are both experts on your tango, who's always saying, ditch that person, run from this person, do this. No, I don't think that's a good starting place unless there is physical or sexual abuse. I think become self-reflective, become self-referent so that you can learn who you are and how you got into this situation. Practice new skills. Do everything you possibly can, because you're teaching your children new ways while they're watching you. And that is imperative. Otherwise, their mirror neurons are just picking up a whole lot of dysfunction. So you become the strong person who can make the changes and demonstrate for your children that. And if the relationship can change, it will change then. And you can make a decision when you have done all that is possible for you to do. And the second part of that is, should you decide to end the relationship, you will go on a much healthier person, able to not get into another hijacker relationship, because you will no longer be hijackal bait.
Yes, and I have to say that usually there are strings of hijackals in your life, and until you really start to do this work, you sometimes don't even recognize that your friendships were hijackals. If you've gotten out of a relationship with a hijackal, and I noticed this not only with myself, but also with many of my clients, that I remember way back when I first started doing this work, I had a woman who was letting this woman stay in her house, and the woman never left. That kind of person who just didn't appreciate, never left a mess, and the woman didn't know how to speak up. So I worked with her on just the friendships in her life, and really recognizing all the hijackals that still remained in her life, and how that she needed to really work on her own behavior and taking responsibility there. So I do a lot of that work too. I love helping people empower themselves and learn how to communicate effectively, and teach people how to treat you. And often we have no idea. These are life skills that are so important in our lives. And I have to say that one of my biggest fears in leaving my marriage was, like most people, was what the effect would be on my children. And at the end, I just needed to save myself. I knew that I could help my children along the way, but I couldn't just keep waiting for that magic day that would come when it would be okay to leave. And I certainly didn't want to wait until my children all graduated high school. And I worked hard. I worked very hard on my relationship. I went to therapy many times. You can't be the only one working on the relationship for it to work. So yes, I did the work, and I transformed tremendously after my divorce. And the wonderful thing is that my husband started to change as we were divorcing. He started to learn communication skills, which really helped our divorce process really go much more smoothly. And my kids are really good at speaking about feelings and needs and advocating for themselves. And so to me, it's a success. I didn't just leave them in the lurch. And, my daughter said to me today, "Why'd you buy such a big house?" And I said, "Because I wanted you all to be able to stay here. I valued my relationship with you. And there are plenty of people who get divorced and never have space for their children. I mean, they're giving messages to their kids, but that's another topic altogether. Um, but I just think that, we have to take care of ourselves first. And, and we take responsibility for how we have let people treat us in our lives. And once you really understand what you can do differently, that's the only thing you really can control.
Exactly, and that was my point earlier. And just as we're winding down here, I'll just give you one more way, especially when you're dating, to figure out if you may be with a hijackal. And that is one of the hallmarks of hijackals is what I call incredulity. If somebody you're dating does something or says something that you go, what? Who does that? Pay attention.
Big sign.
Do not go rushing to make a rationalization or a justification or be compassionate and understanding to the nth degree. If you have jaw-dropping moments when you go, whoa, nobody does that, you're right. Carefully take note of that, because hijackals traffic in incredulity, and they get away with stuff because you're not calling them on it. Now, let me say something about that, because that word shouldn't have come out of my mouth without this added piece. Never call hijackals on their stuff straight out, because all they will do is fight you.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about you identifying it within you, not calling them out on it, but calling it out to yourself. Oh my, that's just what Dr. Shaler said. That's jaw-dropping. It's incredulous. I better take notice of that. And remember too, if this is all making sense to you, rush right over to hijackals.com and download my How to Spot a Hijackal ebook. It's free. And join in at Surviving Hijackals on Facebook if you are working your way out of a relationship with a hijackal, or you've done it and you really want to make sure that you're clear and clean and no longer hijackal bait. Sandy, I think that we've hit some really high points today that are more in depth than just regular dating tips. What do you think?
Definitely. I go deep with my clients. So this is typical stuff that I do talk about. I wanted to say also that in terms of online dating, the hijackal shows up as a romance scammer, as a person who is trying to manipulate you and preys on the most vulnerable women who are bright, successful. These are not idiots. These are really bright women who have fallen for these kind of hijackal romance scammers. And it just triggered when you said, don't fight back. I remember when it happened to me once was enough. I learned to recognize the signs. Like you said before, if it happens to you, it's okay as long as you're learning and recognizing the signs. So I write about it. I talk about it. But what I read was, don't fight back. Don't say, I found you out. I know who you are. I got your number. Because what they're going to do is they're going to get better at the game that they're playing.
And they'll turn it against you too.
And what?
They'll turn it against you.
Yeah, I mean, he had no way to turn anything against me. I just blocked him. But what I basically said to him was I met someone else. And then I reported him and blocked him. You don't want to let them on to their game. That they don't want to let them know you're on to them. So whether it's online or offline, please take care of yourself. And I also just want to put a caveat out that we shouldn't go around dating with our heart closed either. And you kind of alluded to that before, that dating is about vulnerability. It's about being open, but you want to come armed with the signs, the red flags, the things that are really, really toxic, that really are bad for you. And don't get involved with people like that. And I want to say also that people who I've broken up with or stopped seeing because I recognize these signs, they've wanted to stay my friend. And I have said, no, it is clean. You are not my friend. And that's why I don't want to be in your life. You have not shown up as a friend. So be really clear. Why do you want to collect people like that in your life? It mucks up your life. It's not good for you, and it will not help you make room for the right person to come into your life.
Very wise. And Sandy at Last First Date is always helping people with the dating world. Um, I have interesting things to say about that, I hope, but dating is not where I spend my time. I specialize in working with the partners, the exes, the adult children, and the co-workers of chronically difficult people, and I call them hijackals. So great combination of skills that Sandy and I bring to you. Hope this has been valuable for you. Nice to see you all here, and please subscribe so that when we're on again in 2 weeks, you'll be here with us.
All right. Great
All
to
right.
see everybody.
Good
Have
to
a
see
good
you
day.
too. Bye bye and talk soon.
Bye. Bye-bye.